Hello everybody, it's Max McAllister back with another episode of Cycle with Max. Today we're going to talk about basic bike positioning for drafting. So I'll do a couple of videos on this topic, but I just want to give you a quick overview and some ideas on where to position yourself safely while you're drafting. So everybody kind of gets, I'm sure everybody can easily understand the concept of organizing themselves in a line behind another bike in front of them. And depending on the person you ask or the scientist you talk to, they're going to tell you that being behind a bike can conserve anywhere from 20 to 30% of the energy that you're putting out. And that's actually pretty easy to verify. A lot of expert riders ride bicycles with power meters, which measure the pressure they're putting on the cranks. And so you can very easily be in a line, read the power you're putting out, move out of a line, and see how much more power it takes to maintain the same speed. So it's a big difference to be able to just line up. Now, when I've had the privilege of visiting the wind tunnel at Specialized Bicycle Components, and the engineers there showed me a bunch of really cool things about drafting in the wind tunnel there. And so one of the interesting things was obviously you get the most benefit by being directly behind a bike, but that benefit is still quite significant if there were no bike here and there was a whole bike length between another bike in front of you. And although it's not significant, it's still measurable to be up to 3 bike lengths away from another bike with nothing in between you. They can still actually measure that effect. But the closer you get, the more you're going to benefit, and the greater energy you'll be able to save. So collectively, 2 cyclists can move faster than 1, because 1 is going to be effectively resting, we call it. We know you're not resting, but you're going to be putting out significantly less energy. This guy's going to be working hard and until he takes a turn and rotates off and goes behind, and then you'll take your turn with the wind on your face, and you'll do the work. So, but let's just talk about 2 bikes for the moment. And I want to kind of show you some ideas about positioning. So if you want to come around here, and I'm going to take this bike off. So you might think that lining right up in a dead straight line is what you should be doing. And while technically on a perfect, on a aerodynamic level, this is optimum, this is in no way safe. So you should never line directly up on a wheel in front of you. And now the reason for that is simply the amount of time that you need to react if this rider does something wrong or does something stupid, or he gets surprised by something, or somebody fails to give him information, or he's not paying attention. If that rider stops pedaling, his bike will slow up immediately, and you'll collide with him. So you want your bike to be offset slightly from the bike in front of you. Now, when I say slightly, I like to say as little as possible, but it's kind of 4 to 6 inches. And what you're buying yourself is this amount of space before your handlebar gets up here. So you're buying yourself, if you kind of come back around for a second from the side, if my wheels were lined up, I have this much time and I hit the bike. If my wheel's 4 inches off to the side, I have all of this time before I collide with this bike. That's actually significant, and it gives you a chance to actually just move your wheel an inch, and then you might glide past and avoid a collision, right? So never line directly up. Now, here in America, we ride on the right-hand side of the road. So typically the lead rider in a line will ride on the white line of the road, and then riders will tend to stack out towards the center of the road from there. It's a very beginner mistake to continue that line on out towards the center of the road. So after 1 or 2 bikes have stacked in behind a rider in leading a group, go ahead and you be the smart one and be the first to start back to the inside of the road. So, and you're going to do the same thing here, just set yourself off several inches to one side. Now, so this is kind of the basic positioning that you want to be. Now, space between the bike will be dictated completely by the speed you're going, and you'll kind of learn that naturally. And as you're riding with more experienced riders, you're going to see the gap that they leave to the bike to them, and it'll kind of feel natural eventually. But if you're going slowly, you can be right near the wheel in front of you. So if you're going, 10 to 15 miles an hour, you can be right here. It's okay. As your speed picks up, that gap is going to pick up. So by the time you're doing 20 plus miles an hour, what will feel safe is going to look something like in the 2 foot range, around 2, sometimes 3 feet as you're kind of working. I call the box here, right? So there's a box of quietness where you'll actually feel the wind stop hitting you. The sound level will get quieter. You'll have less noise on your helmet. And if it's cold out, it gets warmer back there. So it's a good place to hide if you're cold. So again, as speed picks up, you need more time to react to this bike in front of you. So that gap will kind of naturally increase. You'll see inside of the group. So 10 to 15 miles an hour, you'll be in this 6 to 18 inch range. Around 20 miles an hour, you're going to be in this 18 to 30 inch range, kind of dependent on what you're doing at the moment. Now, it's important to, if you want to be drafting and you want to ride in a line, it's important to kind of maintain that gap. So remember, the further you get back, the more the resistance picks up on you. So it's very important to kind of fight to stay up on that wheel and stay connected to that rider, because the further you drop back, the harder work you're going to be doing. Now, it seems counterintuitive that if you're struggling, that just keep fighting to stay on that wheel. But the truth is, once you drop back here, you might actually just go ahead and drop all the way off of the group, because you can't maintain that pace. It's going to get harder and harder and harder the further you get away. So, all right, now here's the number one thing that you can do absolutely wrong. I don't care what country you're in, what language you speak. It's called half wheeling, overlapping wheels, or overlapping wheels. You have to protect your front wheel. The reason is, anything that you do wrong with your front wheel will cause you to crash. Okay, so what happens is, come on up kind of over here. Any amount of overlap means you're imminently about to crash, right? So particularly if you're a beginner or intermediate cyclist, and this is all new as to you, you never, ever, ever put the tip of your front wheel past the back wheel of the bike in front of you. So if you do, you are imminently about to crash or be taken out. Now, the truth is, it may not be you that moves. And by the way, it might not even be that somebody does anything wrong, but this bike might just decide to move over a little bit. Now, if you contact this bike's rear wheel, this rider will never know it, other than he's going to hear you scream and hear your bike cartwheeling down the road. He's not going to feel it. You're not going to affect him. You're not going to bother him. You will hit his wheel, and your bike will fold up, crash, and you're going to be a victim here of your own negligence. Okay, so if you get knocked down for your front wheel, there's only one person's fault. It's your fault. Even if this guy's an idiot and he's swerving and doing reckless riding, it's your job to never overlap his wheel. Okay, now what's the reason for that? Well, there's no hinge in this bike. This is all solid. The wheel is solid and fixed. Your front wheel is a hinge, okay? And it's on a lever. So this is a lever on this pivot point. So when all you have to do is come up to this guy, this rider here, and he just moves over, and he's going to knock your front wheel. You're not strong enough holding these bars to stop that from happening. And all it takes is a little shift in the wheel, and you're going to fall down, fold up, and flip over, okay? So never overlap wheels. And in fact, I'm a big advocate of, if you see people doing it, Just quietly point it out to them. Say, hey, watch your overlap. Hey, watch your half wheeling. You know, make sure you call it out, because it's now. Let's talk about the bigger picture, which is the safety of everyone in your whole group. Now, it's one thing if you're stupid, you're a negligent rider, you don't pay attention, and you don't protect yourself. But if there's other riders behind you and you want to be a half wheeler and you get knocked down, well, now you're going to have a bunch of other people crash and be injured also. So that's really, really negligent riding. Don't do it, okay? Now, there is one circumstance to watch for. We're going to talk about it in another video, but I'm going to bring it up here, and that's while you're climbing. So tons of people half wheel while climbing. Now, they feel a little safer because the speed is greatly reduced as you're going up a hill. But so what will happen is you might be a rider who's holding your relative cadence, speed, and effort on the hill, but this guy isn't strong enough. And so he's going to start weakening up as he's on the hill, and he's going to start falling back from the wheel. He's going to start losing the wheel in front of him. As he might start drifting back, you can't just say, well, I'm stronger than you, and hold your ground and let this guy drift back, because he is actually effectively backing up across your front wheel. Now, that's an instance where he can cause you to crash. And another problem you'll find with that, where you really can get in trouble, particularly if your wheel is lined up on a climb, a lot of people, we'll talk about this in a whole video, and I'm going to demonstrate it on a bike, make really bad movements when they go from seated position to standing position while climbing. So if they pause, from coming off the seat to standing up, their bike will pause on the hill. You'll hit them, you'll fall down, it's your fault. Now, technically, this is bad skill and bad riding etiquette on this rider's behalf, but it's your job to protect your wheel at all times. And if you've got your wheel in a position where somebody's going to take you out, that's your fault. So this is the most important area of your whole bicycle right here. Our greatest danger and the greatest chance of you being injured or being in a crash comes in that space right there. So don't let anybody in that space. Don't occupy that space. Don't you put your wheel in that danger zone. And if you can do that, the odds of you getting into a crash are extremely low, or greatly reduced from that one thing. All right, so there's your basic position while drafting, and then also talk about half wheeling and or wheel overlap. All right, so thanks a lot. It's Max. Please subscribe to my channel and share these videos with your friends who ride bikes.